Stand clear of the closing doors, please.
And what is up, you guys? Welcome to the stream. The New York Mets looking to get the sweep over the Kansas City Royals and finish out the first half strong. And looked like for most of this game that was not going to be the case, as they are trailing 2-0 almost from the jump. The bats looking pretty lifeless. Getting some guys aboard, just not getting them over and getting them in. And then all of a sudden in the ninth inning, Jeff McNeil with an RBI triple. Jared Young pinch hitting with a sac fly to tie this game up. But before you knew it, Sean Manaea, despite having an extremely impressive season debut for the Mets here today, ends up giving up a couple base hits, a stolen base, and the Royals walk the Mets off in a 3-2 loss. The Mets win the series, of course, as we know. They won Friday, they won Saturday. I was at both of those games, so I'm just saying, I think I'm partly responsible for it, and I'm also responsible for the reason why the Mets lost here today. But really good series for the most part for the Mets, winning 2 out of 3. But this was a tease. This was a little bit of a tease. I'm not going to lie. I mean, I didn't have high expectations considering how they were performing at the plate all day, but then to tie the game the way they did in the fashion that they did in the ninth inning with Jeff McNeil and with Jared Young hitting a sacrifice fly first pitch swinging, with how Sean Manaea was looking coming in relief of Clay Holmes in the sixth inning. This one kind of hurts a little bit, but anyway, let's get into it, guys. What's up? I'm Tony Metro. If you guys are new to the channel, be sure to subscribe. Daily Mets content here. We do a post-game recap after every single Mets game. Daily Mets content, like I said, I was in Kansas City this weekend, so I was a little absent from all that, but I did do a post-game live from Kauffman Stadium after the Mets 3-1 victory yesterday, so I'm always here for you guys, and this is our little Mets therapy sessions as we got Stefan in the chat. Stefan from Amsterdam. What's up, Tom? Thanks for the streams. Thank you, Stefan, for tuning in. Loyal follower here. He is also a part of my Discord, which, by the way, if you guys want to be a part of this show, you can call in right now. Just go to the link in the description of this video. That will take you to my Discord channel. I will throw you in when we are ready to take live calls, so I'll be sure to be monitoring that as we go on. But overall, guys, yes, it's a loss today, but a lot of encouraging signs from this weekend as a whole. Let's begin with Friday. Mets are winning that game. Only one run, though. They have just 2 hits entering the 8th inning. Bobby Witt Jr. has the go-ahead 2-run homer off of Huascar Brazoban. I'm sitting in the stands at Kauffman Stadium thinking, oh my gosh, this is about to be horrible. The Mets are about to lose their 3rd game in a row. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, Mark Vientos with the bases-clearing double to unload the bases and give the Mets that 4-3 lead that they would only add on to. 3-run shot from Lindor, home run from Juan Soto immediately after that, going back-to-back, and the Mets take that opening game on Friday by a final of 8-3. And then yesterday, again, the offense, not super impressive for the most part this series, but able to do enough yesterday and really impressive pitching from the Mets bullpen as they were able to hold down that skinny 1-run lead that it was for the most of the afternoon, and then able to get another insurance run there in the 9th from Jeff McNeil's base hit. Edwin Diaz with the 6-out save. So really, really great first 2 games of this series. And then today, look, the Mets get a couple hits, but again, like I said in the intro to this video, just couldn't seem to move them over and get them in today. That was until the 9th inning. Obviously, not the best performance from the offense when you only scored 2 runs and they come in the 9th inning. But I thought for the most part, we saw a little bit better of a lineup than what we had been seeing, like in the doubleheader sweep at the hands of the Orioles. Let me go to the chat real quick. Adam, are you staying live for the draft? You know, that's a good idea. I didn't even realize that, but I could. I don't know what time the draft is, but I will definitely closely monitor it, and I will probably pump out some videos on who the Mets end up selecting. Not even sure if the Mets have a first-round pick this year because of the whole collective bargaining tax penalties that we might have incurred. But let me know where the Mets are picking, and I will definitely make a video on that stuff if I'm not also just going to stay live. Great idea, Adam. RM1042, what's up? How's it going? Okay, so it's at 6 p.m. Thank you, Adam. Yeah, well, that would be in like 12 minutes, right? Okay, perfect. So, yeah, I guess I'm definitely going to be live for the draft, and we can see how that goes and who the Mets pick. Again, I don't know if the Mets even have a pick in the first round for this year's draft, again, because of the penalties that we might have incurred from being over the collective bargaining tax number. but let me take a look MLB draft order and see what they say. I know the Nationals have the top overall pick, and speculation is that it's going to be Jackson Holliday's brother. So of course, Matt Holliday's two sons. So Jackson on the Orioles, who we just saw, and now I believe his brother is mocked to be the top overall pick in this year's draft. So really cool to see Matt Holliday just pumping out some big league babies, huh? Right? I mean, that's insane, but high school bats, so that'll be interesting to see. But let me go back to this game, though, really quick before we get too deep into any of that. Alvin Solano coming into the chat saying anemic offense. Yeah, I mean, I think I may have overstated how they performed this weekend. Honestly, it just seemed like every time they got a runner on base today, it was either strikeout, or roll into a double play. That kid pitching for the Royals today, Cameron, is the real deal. He has been very, very solid for them over the last month and a half, and we saw it on display today. Ends up striking out the side there. I think it was in the fourth inning when the Mets had runners on first and second. He gets Terren swinging, he gets Acuna swinging, and then I believe he got Lindor or somebody else after that. So kind of a frustrating weekend from the offense, despite, yeah, they score 8 runs on Friday, but kind of in a weird way where it all comes in the 8th inning. To that point, though, they only had 2 hits. And then yesterday, I thought the Mets were putting good wood on the ball, but they were just kind of having some atom balls, man. They were just hitting it, line drives to center field right at the Royals defender. So a little bit of BABIP luck. The BABIP gods not exactly being on our side, but obviously not the most impressive performance that we have seen from this lineup before. But let's go back to today's game, because I have completely glossed over what I think is the main takeaway from Sunday, and that is the impressive season debut of Frankie Montas. Now, look, guys, he gets charged with the loss in this game, obviously. We know that's the case because he gives up the go-ahead game-winning run in the bottom of the 9th inning. But overall, what an impressive season debut for Sean Manaea. He comes in the 6th inning to relieve Clay Holmes. First batter he's facing, welcome back to the big leagues, it's Bobby Witt Jr. Bobby hits one up the middle for a base hit, but then from there, man, just looked like nails. Had that 3/4 arm slot going, the same thing we saw when he made that adjustment in the second half of last season, and completely turned into a different pitcher, one of the best in the National League last year from basically June on. And this is a very encouraging sign to see what Sean Manaea did today. He strikes out the side in the 7th, or maybe it was the 8th inning. I can't remember off the top of my head right here. The final line for him is 3 1/3, 5 hits, 1 earned run. But the big thing for me, these 7 strikeouts right here. So look, obviously, if you're just looking at the line, you say, wow, he gave up 5 hits and he only went 3 1/3. He gives up the go-ahead, the walk-off run. Maybe it's not that impressive a start, but if you actually watch this, you know how good Sean Manaea looked today in his season debut. And wow, what a revelation that the Mets will finally be able to go to a full 5-man rotation with Sean Manaea back. Of course, we got Kodai Senga back on Friday as well, who pitched relatively well in his return from the injured list. But Sean Manaea really, really looked exactly like second half Sean Manaea of 2024. And that is going to be such a boon for this team heading into the second half, that we can have a fully healthy staff. And not only that, but we're going to get our 2 aces back into the rotation regularly, or at least that is the hope. Fingers crossed, as long as they continue to stay healthy. So I was really impressed with what we saw from Sean Manaea today. And even though it's a loss, I still am feeling very positive about how the Mets finished the first half. I'll be honest, you heard me say it here. I wanted the Mets to win 4 of these final 6 against the Royals and against the Orioles. They lose 2 out of 3 in Baltimore, but they bounce back, win the first 2 games of the series in Kansas City, and they just come up a little short of getting the sweep that would have given them 4 of the final 6. But at the end, 3-3, not terrible. We just leapfrogged the Phillies for first place by a half a game with our win yesterday. They are actually in action right now, so we'll see what happens. Maybe they're going to go back ahead of us. If they lose today, we'll stay a half a game ahead of them. They'll get swept by San Diego entering the All-Star break. So overall, really, really happy with where the Mets are at this current juncture heading into the All-Star break. But sound off in the chat, guys. How are you feeling? Because it's been a roller coaster, as we know it always is with the Mets. It's a lot of ups, a lot of downs. The downs feel way worse than the ups, but to be either a half a game behind first place or potentially a half game ahead of first place entering the All-Star break, despite all of the issues that we have seen in June and some other ones that have continued to kind of trickle into July, I'm feeling like this team now getting healthier, with the exception of Jesse Winker, of course. That's a topic for another day, but I think that this team is definitely on a good course. But let me know how you guys feel in the chat. And speaking of that, let me go to the chat. Ray, what's up? Tony, you were the mojo. I know, man. I was at both the games Friday and Saturday, and they won. I am 6-0 this year while attending a Mets game in person and in 3 different cities. Obviously, it's Citi Field in New York. Went to Colorado last month. They won both games I went to. And then this weekend in Kansas City, they win the 2 games that I went to. So it's either me or it's Mrs. Tony, who's the good luck charm. She had never been to a Mets game until this year. She has never seen the Mets lose in person, but I wish that I could have stuck around for today's game. I think I would have just been able to bring us that sweep, but unfortunately not the case, but I appreciate it, Ray. RM1042, I think Manaya's outing was a positive. Going to be interesting how Mendoza sets the rotation after the All-Star break. Personally, I'd go Senga, Peterson, Holmes, Manaya, Montas. Okay, so we open with with Cincinnati out of the All-Star break. So that is going to begin on Friday after they conclude the All-Star festivity. So let me actually look at the Mets schedule really quick. And I don't know how that Manaya is going to handle it. I don't know if he's going to go based on matchups or how it's going to kind of sort itself out, but there's really no wrong way of setting this rotation. Obviously, we got to continue to see if Senga needs that extra day of rest. Probably would be smart to do that with Clay Holmes and with Sean Manaea still ramping up as well. I think that would probably be the smartest way to do it. However, you are going to keep these guys from pitching as often as possible, right? Because we got to keep all these guys healthy. We finally have the rotation that we had on paper entering the season available at our fingertips now. So we got to keep them all healthy. But I don't really know if there's a right or there's a wrong answer to how they put it in order. But I do like what you're saying there, RM. You said they should go Senga, Peterson, Holmes, Manaya, Montas. That might be the way you break up the 2 lefties in the rotation with Peterson, and with Manaya, you get Holmes in there in the middle, and then you can go to Montas as the 5th starter. I personally am fine with that. Look, rotation orders really don't matter unless we're talking a crucial series that you got to win or a playoff series. So if that's how they want to do it, fine by me. Really doesn't matter to me as long as it's those 5 names you just stated are pitching every 5th day, every 6th day, however they decide to orchestrate all of that. Ray says the Fab Four are flopping like pancakes. This was not the most impressive series for the guys. Pete drew a couple walks today, had some good at-bats this weekend. Nimmo, I thought, really solid as well. Big key to getting that comeback going in on Friday in the win when he drew a walk to lead off the top of the 8th inning, and then they eventually loaded the bases for Vientos. But yeah, not the most impressive. Soto hits 2 home runs, but he also strikes out 3 times today. So yeah, Soto obviously going to come away with pretty decent numbers, but a lot more strikeouts than I kind of anticipated seeing from Juan Soto when we signed him. Maybe I didn't watch him closely enough with the Nationals or the Padres or with the Yankees last year, but a lot more swinging and missing from Juan than I thought we would be getting after we signed him to that contract. But not the best weekend for the Fab Four, as Steve Cohen dubbed it: Nimmo, Lindor, Pete Alonso, and Juan Soto. But overall, look, you take 2 out of 3, you got to be pretty happy with that. It just stings a little bit more because the offense, as it was said earlier by Elvin, a little anemic over the weekend. They explode in the 8th inning Friday. Yesterday, they can barely scratch out 3 runs. They only get that final insurance run in the 9th with 2 outs from Jeff McNeil, who came up clutch here today in the top of the 9th as well. But unfortunately, yes, they fall a little short of getting that sweep. Man, how good of a feeling would that have been for the Mets to get this sweep going into the All-Star break, secure their spot in first, the top of the National League East standings, no matter what happens with the Phillies. Unfortunately, not the case. But overall, I thought a very encouraging weekend to get Kodai Senga back, to get Sean Manaea back, and to get a series win after how they looked in that doubleheader against Baltimore on Thursday. I thought a really, really solid bounce-back weekend for the Mets. Let's go back to the chat here. Ray, McNeil scrapped it out in the 9th. McNeil better than the young bloods. McNeil's been great, man. I mean, his OPS has got to be somewhere super, super in the 800s at this point, right? Somewhere higher than it probably ever has been in his career. Let's see. Jeff McNeil came in to pinch hit for Tyrone Taylor. OPS 806 on the year, 253 average. And I've said it before, I don't need Jeff McNeil to be batting champion of 2022 Jeff McNeil that slapped it around the yard for 326 average. I'll take the 800 plus OPS from Jeff McNeil, even if it means the batting average is a little bit lower at 253. I will take that every day of the week. But obviously, Mauricio able to get aboard. He has 2 hits today, including 1 from the right side of the plate. His numbers are slowly creeping up. He's got the 237 average now, 720 OPS. So good signs from Ronnie. You got a good day from Mark Vientos with 2 hits as well. And his first 2 at-bats might have got robbed of another hit on some spectacular defense from Bobby Witt Jr. at shortstop. Man, what a player he is. To believe Bobby Witt Jr. only signed an 11-year contract for $298 million. Like, what a bargain for the Royals to be paying him what they are. And at whatever, 27, 26 years old, I mean, super great deal for the Royals. And obviously Bobby Witt's not going to complain about $300 million in the bank either, but what a player he is. Overall, though, guys, I thought some impressive signs. I thought Beatty swung the bat really well this whole weekend. He hit into some bad luck yesterday, a couple line drives that just found guys out in the field. So overall, even though the actual output for this offense wasn't super impressive, just 3 runs yesterday, just 2 runs today that come in the 9th inning. And then Friday, even though, yeah, they put 8 on the board, but it all comes in that comeback effort in the 8th, just 2 hits leading into that frame. I still think the Mets swung the bat pretty well despite not having a lot to show for it. But again, you take the 2 wins, some really solid pitching from this team the entire weekend. The Royals only scored 3 on Friday. They scored just 1 yesterday and just 3 runs today. So really impressive pitching from the entire Mets staff. Credit to Senga, credit to Minaya, credit to some guys that we would not normally have been depending on or would not have been able to rely on in the form of Chris Davinsky yesterday. He comes in and throws a scoreless 7th inning. Reed Garrett came in on Saturday in the 6th inning with a runner aboard after Frankie Montas departed that game, able to strand a runner at 3rd with no outs and keep the Mets ahead by a run. So obviously can't go without saying Edwin Diaz's fantastic 6-out save yesterday as well. So the pitching staff carries the load for this team, very similar to what we saw for the first 2 months of the season. So we would like it to be a little more balanced where, hey, the Mets are going to just come out and bash 10 home runs. Obviously not 10, but bash, a bunch of homers out of the yard, score 10 runs and make it easy on this pitching staff. But still, to this point in the season, now 3+ months in, has not really been the regular occurrence. But guys, be sure to leave this video a like. Really appreciate it. Goes a long way toward helping me out here at the channel. So do that right now if you have not already. Be sure to subscribe if you have not already. Daily Mets content, post-game recap after every single Mets game. Even yesterday, while I was leaving Kauffman Stadium after attending that one. Fun weekend in Kansas City. I'm going to be honest though, man, that stadium is cheeks. I do not like Kauffman Stadium. It is old, so I kind of expected it to be a little underwhelming, but wow, the concourses when you're just trying to get around to get food or refreshments and then back to your seat, man, it is just way too cramped in there. Not my favorite ballpark. It wasn't a terrible experience. There were a couple of rude Royal fans that were popping off, but nothing crazy, and I don't pop off going crazy for the Mets when I'm an away fan. You're a guest in their park. You got to be respectful. You have a little bit of fun, but overall, not my favorite park. Fans were okay, not the best. Would not recommend it unless you happen to be in Kansas City, if I'm being completely honest. So it was cool. Check off another one on my stadium bucket list. That probably puts me at like 15 or so, but that includes now former stadiums as well that have since been retired, such as Shea, of course, Yankee Stadium, old Yankee Stadium, that is, and so on. But not the greatest vibe at Kauffman Stadium, if I'm being totally honest with you. But let's go back to the chat. Joe, Vientos' bat might finally be waking up, and what a huge resource that would be for the Mets if Mark Vientos continues to hit the way that he did this weekend at Kansas City. I mean, Steve Gelb said it today on the play-by-play call, which, by the way, my goodness, Steve is not a very fun listen, if I'm being honest with you. I don't really particularly enjoy when Steve Gelbs is on the play-by-play call. But anyway, I'm not going to disparage him. Anyway, Mark Vientos definitely looked really good. The best that we have seen him in 2024. I don't think that's an overstatement to say. Do you? I think this is easily the best 3-game stretch that we saw Mark Vientos. And you saw it there on Friday, 8th inning, backs against the wall after they had just blown the lead. The home run from Bobby Witt off of Huascar Brosman. Just 2 hits entering that 8th inning on Friday, and Vientos with with 1 out and 2 strikes. And he even did that in Baltimore as well, where he had he had a double and he had a ball that got hit all the way to the wall when he came in to pinch hit for Jesse Winker in game 1 of that doubleheader. So easily the best 3-game stretch that we have seen from Mark Vientos. So Joe, I hope you are right, and that is the case. Stefan, by the way, saying, hope the Phillies lose. It's now 1-1. Okay, for sure. That's good news. Absol would be nice for the Mets to finish first place before the All-Star break. Phillies Padres tied 1-1 right now. Okay, very good. So the MLB draft also just began. So really quickly, let me go turn over to this. So we know the Nationals have the first overall pick. And I don't believe the Mets do have a pick in the first round. They don't. So they were penalized for, I don't know what it was, but they don't have a first round pick. First 32 picks, and the Mets first pick in this draft is the 38th overall pick. So we will keep an eye on that and see what the Mets do. I don't know. I really didn't study any of David Stern's kind of draft philosophy. We know last year he took a college bat in Carson Bengi or Bang, whatever his name is, however you pronounce it. So wonder if he's going to go that route again with a more polished guy that's a little bit older instead of a high school guy. But that's always a possibility as well. Like I said, I believe it's going to be Jackson Holliday's brother that is going to be the first overall pick for the Nationals. At least that has been the word on the street. So really don't care what any of the other teams do, just what the Mets. But again, they're picking 38th, which means it's probably not going to come in until at least, I guess, like 7:30 Eastern time, 6:30 my time. I'm an hour behind you guys here in the Midwest. But let's go back to the chat. Let's see. Abso, with Manaea back, Clay Holmes is now bullpen ready, in my honest opinion. Yeah, well, give credit to Holmes. Looked pretty good today despite giving up that 2-run double that ended up giving the Royals enough in this game, or it looked like it would be enough until those final couple innings. But he gutted this one out. 5 solid innings, only 1 walk, which was really good to see because walks had been a big issue for Clay Holmes in his most recent starts. Let's actually take a look. His final line is 5 innings, 5 hits, gives up the 2 earned runs. He strikes out just, I think it was 2, but he only walks 1. So that was great to see, coming off of arguably his worst start of the season, his worst start with the Mets, when he gave up 5 in that game 1 opener against Baltimore, where the Mets were able to stage that late 8th inning comeback and win. But definitely a nice little bounce back start for Holmes, who was going against a Royals lineup that is pretty talented, but the Mets pitching staff kind of held them at bay. But again, here, I wanted to bring this up to you guys because his last time out against Baltimore, only 1 walk. Okay, so that was obviously good, but then he gave up a bunch of those base hits, and that's what led to the disastrous 6th inning that saw him exit without recording an out. Today, just 1 walk. But all the starts leading into those 2 were kind of bad as far as the free passes. He gave up 4 walks on his July 2nd start against the Brewers. He gave up 4 against Atlanta at Citi Field, 6 against the Braves down in the ATL before that, and 2 against Tampa Bay a few weeks ago. So it has definitely been something that was getting a little concerning, a little alarming, kind of raising the eyebrows of what's his deal. Why does he not have as much control as he seemed to in the early part of his season here with the Mets? But nice to see him now go back-to-back starts, 5 innings apiece, and just 1 run, even though, unfortunately, the Mets can't pull this one out. But yeah, I think that's the plan, is the Mets are eventually going to transition Holmes to the bullpen. You got to have a starter ready, though, if that's the case. And is it going to be one of these young guys? Is it going to be Jonah Tong? Well, probably not Tong, but is it going to be Brandon Sproat? Could it be Nolan McLean? And are the Mets going to go out and acquire a guy at the trade deadline, an established veteran that they can insert into Holmes' spot and then move him to the bullpen? I think that is what the Mets are probably thinking is how they're going to handle this. And then next year, maybe he'll feel a little more stretched out and the Mets will actually just utilize him as a starter the entire way. But yes, I do believe the eventual plan is to put Clay Holmes into the back end of this bullpen and hopefully form a nice bridge to Edwin Diaz with whatever else they get from Brooks Raley and whoever they might also acquire at the trade deadline. So good comment there from you, Ab. So let's see. Stefan, where is Kranick? That's a good question because just today, Gelbs was talking on the broadcast about how the Mets are going to lose Dednell Nunez for the season. He is going to undergo Tommy John surgery, 2nd time now. So obviously, Dednell Nunez's future very much in question at this point. Very sad to see because he was starting to come around, look a lot more like the first half of 2024 Dead Now Nunez. But he did comment on Max Kranick as well. And there is no official word on whether Kranick is actually going to undergo Tommy John surgery, but it is a possibility. So Carlos Mendoza updated the statuses of Buto and Kranick before Sunday's game. He's going to Port St. Lucie in reference to Buto. I think he's going to pitch a game on Tuesday. Okay, so maybe I am mistaken. I apologize. I just spewed some lies to you guys. I could have sworn what Gelbs was saying is that Nunez is going to undergo Tommy John again for the second time, but that is apparently not the case because it's saying here, Mendoza said today that Buto is going to Port St. Lucie and may be pitching on Tuesday. As far as Dead Now Nunez, where does he say about Dead Now Nunez? I don't see anything here. Okay, so it was only on Buto and on Kranick, so we don't know anything about Nunez according to this article. Okay, so update time. Sorry guys, I was trying to do that live on the fly. Buto is set to pitch in Port St. Lucie potentially as early as Tuesday. He had a illness. We never heard what it was or why he was going to be missing for the time he was, but he is going to do a little minor league rehab assignment. As far as Kranick, he has been on the injured list since June 19th, retroactive to June 16th. They said nothing yet. He went and saw Dr. Meister on Thursday. He's still looking, waiting for opinions from the doctors to see what the next steps from there. Okay, so sounds to me when you're waiting on a second opinion that you're probably going to be getting some season-ending surgery. That's what that tells me. So no true update on Kranick, which to me is obviously bad. I don't think we're going to see him again this year, which is unfortunate. But that's kind of my thinking on this. So hopefully that's not the case, but this doesn't sound like good news. No news is probably better than that news that we just got there. But let's check on Dead Now Nunez as well, because I do believe he is set to undergo Tommy John surgery again. Yes, that is correct. So according to the New York Post, this was yesterday. Dead Now Nunez needs Tommy John surgery in latest Mets bullpen injury blow. And this has just kind of been the case the entire season. Began with AJ Minter and with Danny Young. We've seen Dead Now Nunez now go down. So, yeah, unfortunately, Nunez is done for the year, obviously. And again, his future is very much in the air, very much in question. Considering this is his second Tommy John surgery. He is not, a very young guy either, not by baseball means at least. He's probably about 28 or so, 29. So hopefully Nunez will come back, but obviously not something that we're going to give much thought to at this point because he is done for the year for the 2025 Mets. So very frustrating there. Let's see. Jimmy James C, what's up? Put Manaea in that long relief situation right when he returns seems like a bad decision. Well, I don't know if I would say it was a relief appearance. I mean, obviously it was, but this was the plan all along. We knew Manaea or Holmes was going to start. The other was going to piggyback off of the first guy that started this game. And I think Manaea just went out there and was basically treating it like a regular start. He pitched very well. I mean, obviously he gets tagged with the loss. He gives up 2 base hits there in the 9th inning, a stolen base that puts him in the runner in scoring position. But I don't think this is something that is going to negatively impact Manaea's return to the rotation as a regular. And again, my takeaway is nothing but positive about what we saw. We saw him strike out 5 guys in a row today. He finishes with 7 punchies on the afternoon, 3 1/3 innings. I actually think it was a really, really nice way for him to get reintroduced to the rotation. So I personally don't agree with you on that one. Who was that? Jimmy. But I mean, I don't think you're wrong either. We'll see how it plays out from now. But I think he got his feet wet a little bit here before the All-Star break. I think for the most part, it went very well. Now we jump him right back into the rotation as a normal regular starter, beginning the game on the mound after the All-Star break concludes. So let's see real quick. Jose Lopez Moya, bad selection by Manaea on the last batter he faced. Should have gone with the fastball. Also, Soto strikeouts are rising. Soto has definitely been striking out way more than I thought he was going to. I agree with you. I was actually unfortunately having to stream that game at the very tail end of it here in Nebraska. We are blacked out from watching the game in Kansas City. Are you kidding me? So I had to find a illicit website for me to watch that final inning. So I'll be honest, I don't even know what pitch he actually threw that got hit for the game-winning walk-off knock. But Adam says draft starting. Okay, draft is starting. I don't know if there's a way for me to watch it here, or at least keep it kind of monitored and see the selections as they come in, but I'll try and do that for you guys. Draft tracker. There we go. That's exactly what we want. All right. So it is Eli Willitis, the first overall pick, a high schooler out of Oklahoma for the Nationals. So it is not Jackson Holiday's brother. That is a little bit of a surprise. But okay. So Eli Willitis is the first overall pick for the Nats in the 2025 amateur draft. He is a shortstop, again, out of high school in Oklahoma. So youngin for sure, but we'll see what happens with him. Ethan Holiday is still on the board. He's out of high school as well. He grew up in wow, he looks exactly like Jackson, his brother. And of course, we know Matt Holiday's two sons right here. So we'll see where Ethan Holiday ends up going next. But just to give you some, Eli Willitis was actually the 5th rated prospect in this year's draft. The Nats make him the first overall pick. So we'll see how that pans out. But the Mets' first pick in this year's draft is number 38. So just to give you an idea of who is the 38th overall prospect, according to MLB.com, it is right-handed pitcher Riley Quick out of Alabama, 6'6" big boy. So maybe this is how it ends up going for the Mets. Obviously, the draft is not went the way Chalk had it, with Ethan Holiday going first. The Nats instead choosing this kid, Eli Willitis. So we will continue to monitor that as it goes along. Again, I don't know if I'll still be live while the Mets are making their first pick. That's probably still not for another hour, I would say. But Ray, Tony, bullpen help is going to be expensive come trade deadline. Stearns' MO is to go cheap reclamation route. And look, I think there could be a blend of that, right? I think that it's fine to take a flyer on a guy or two like they did last year with Ryan Stanek and with Phil Maton, but they absolutely need a sure thing. And you can't convince me that Brooks Raley, coming off of Tommy John surgery, is a sure thing. Yes, I'm going to take him back with open arms, and so far the numbers have been fantastic in his minor league rehab assignment. But who's to say, number one, he doesn't get hurt again? And who's to say, number two, when he does come to the big league level, he just doesn't have it the way he's been performing in the minors? So that is not a sure thing, in my opinion. Mets definitely need to do something like Felix Bautista from Baltimore, who we saw over the week. I think the Red Sox are probably not going to be selling at this point. They have won 10 games in a row. So it doesn't look like Aroldis Chapman is going to be an option at this point, though I know many fans feel very indifferent about that one, or not indifferent, but we are split, and that is probably because of some of the personal lifestyle choices that Chapman has made. Anyway, yeah, look, bullpen help is going to be expensive. Every contending team is always looking to shore up the bullpen, and I have said it here before. That is why I think bullpen is actually more important come October than getting an ace stud starting pitcher who most times will only give you about 5, maybe 6 innings, and then those crucial final 9 to 12 outs have to come from your bullpen. So I agree with you, Ray, 100%. The Mets need to be active and getting some sure things at the bullpen. It can't just be the dumpster dives, the hidden gems that David Stearns wants to uncover. And I do believe he will be aggressive in getting some legitimate back-end options. Guys, be sure to leave this video a like. Really appreciate it. If you guys are tuning in for the first time because I met you in Kansas City this weekend, welcome. Nice to meet you. Fun weekend, obviously, up until about an hour ago, that walk-off loss. But even in the loss, the Mets showing a little bit of fight there in the 9th inning by tying it up. Really impressive season debut for Sean Manaea. Love to see that. I think Clay Holmes has bounced back nicely after a tough start. And overall, Mets heading into the All-Star break, potentially a half a game ahead in first, or at the very worst, a half a game back of the Phillies in the National League East standings. So I'm feeling pretty good about things. How are you guys feeling? Let me know. Sound off in the chat right now. What is your feeling on the Mets right now as we head into the second half? Let me go back to the chat here. D-Rails, what's up, dude? How you doing, man? Appreciate you being here. D-Rails is a regular. All you guys are regulars. Red Bear Fox. Oh, my God. I got a lot of chat to catch up on. Let me do that. Roy Batty, even though we lost this game, had great signs for the Mets. Exactly. That's how I feel. Manaea, Holmes, a little bit of a comeback there, even though it obviously falls short. Got a couple hits from Mark Vientos, who had a very good weekend. I thought Beatty swung the bat well. Mauricio with the double to start that 9th inning. He had another hit in this game as well as a right-handed hitter. So a lot of good signs. And, of course, some strong bullpen work the entire 3-game series down there in Kansas City. Let's see. Stephen, those waterfalls look cool, though. Yeah, they're pretty cool. I mean, it was so damn hot yesterday. that my girlfriend and I had to go stand by the waterfalls just to get some relief, just a little bit of wind to carry the mist of those waterfalls out beyond the outfield at Kansas City at Kauffman Stadium. It was so sweltering hot. There's just no escaping it from that place. Guys, give me a second. Need to plug the computer in. I forgot. I just got back about 20 minutes before the Mets game ended. So I am kind of getting everything back in order here. But let me go back over here to here, and you can check out these awesome highlights. Just give me a second. All right, here we go. Tell your friends, guys. Sip my Diet Coke. Diet Coke is just a game changer. The best, right? All right, let me go back to the chat really quick. Thank you guys for your patience there. Let's see, Adam, here comes the commissioner as far as the draft. Yeah, again, we're going to keep track of it, see if how far it goes here while I'm still streaming. Tyler Bremer, second overall pick, going to the Angels out of UC Santa Barbara. Go Gauchos. Not far from where I lived for many years of my childhood, about an hour and a half away up there in Santa Barbara. But let's see, Seattle, Colorado, St. Louis, Pittsburgh, Miami. So a couple National League teams after the Mariners there, but let me go back to the chat here as you can hear Mookie sounding off. Jose Lopez Moya, the worst booth in Mets history, Steve Gelbs and Ron Darling. Steve Gelbs is not a good play-by-play guy. It's just not good at all. It is. He is not the heir apparent to be the play-by-play guy when Gary Cohen eventually retires, but it better not be him. That's all I'm saying. Steve is a bore. He doesn't know what's going on. I mean, like, I've done play-by-play. It's difficult, but he doesn't have it. He just does not have it. I agree with you 100%. PB9? And I saw Max Kranick may have Tommy John. That is correct. So we just talked about it here a moment ago. I'm catching up on the chat. But yeah, Kranick may get Tommy John. They're waiting on a second opinion. Like I said, when you're waiting on a second opinion, usually means you're going to get Tommy John. And even if he doesn't, it's probably not a case where we're going to see him pitching again this season. The Mets could desperately use any type of relief help that they can get. So unfortunate, especially for Kranick, who has had a pretty up and down, tumultuous kind of career in the big league. Started with the Pirates, went to the Mets. He grew up a Mets fan, so definitely disappointing for him on a personal level. Let's see. Stefan Castillo was in the rotation. Two, not a big fan, and Carrillo and Garcia, lots of Latin guys in the rotation. Castillo, who... Well, yeah, in the bullpen, Jose Castillo right now, Alex Carrillo. Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. But Jose says, boy, these Mets players are more fragile than ragdolls. Red Bear Fox, what's up, man? Joining late. Apologies if this was discussed already. This game was a prime example of why Torrens and Acuna have zero business being in a major league lineup. They are both garbage. So Luis Angel Acuna just simply has not hit at all this year. We know that. Case in his first stint before getting sent down to AAA. It does not look like he looked in September of last season for sure, but brings a lot defensively, runs the bases obviously very well. I like Luis Angel Acuna. He's not a starting player. Clear at this point that he is just not a starting player at the big league level, at least not yet. But hopefully, maybe he's going to come around and can at least just be like a 250 hitting guy that can pop a couple homers, but still no home runs this year from Luis Angel Acuna, but not a very impressive showing for him so far, even since his recall. But the defense, oh my goodness, he is so sure-handed, turning those double plays over at second base. I love watching Luis Angel Acuna. And I'll be honest with you guys, the Mets don't win yesterday's game without Luis Angel Acuna. Because I'm sitting down there on the third base line, and it's the sixth or maybe the seventh inning, hard shot, short hop to Acuna. He's able to get to it, in front of it, field it. They don't turn the double play, but they get the lead runner at second. That ball is probably getting by anybody else that the Mets could trot out at second base, whether it's Jeff McNeil or Brett Beatty. Luis Angel Acuna is the only one that makes that play defensively, so I understand the frustration with his bat not coming around at this point, but defensively, as good as they come up the middle. So I think there is a role for Acuna on this team. Unfortunately, probably not going to live up to the hype that we had for him when he was first coming through their system after trading for him. But I hear you on that for sure, Red Bear. Also, he says, Alonso has been terrible in July. Yeah, it's been a pretty rough July for Pete for the most part. I was thinking he was going to pop one into the fountains this weekend. Obviously, that doesn't happen, but still relatively productive weekend for Pete. Drew a lot of walks, which was really nice to see from him today. Doesn't get a hit, but 3 walks from Pete Alonso today. I mean, like, still, the average is 280, the OPS 908. That has definitely, you know, been going down and down and down since that 1200 start. We knew that was probably not sustainable for him, but overall, still a really good year for Pete. Let's take a look, though, over his last 15 games. That would basically give us a rough estimate of what he's done here in July. But last 15 games for Pete, 208 average, 328 OBP, 3 homers, 12 RBIs. So you're right on the money about that one, Red Bear Fox. It has not been a great July for Pete Alonso. I will give you that for sure. Let's see. Goomba, what's up, man? How's it going? What the F? Is Mania there for the 9th? He was clearly gassed in the 8th. Diaz hasn't pitched in days and has 5 more off. Well, that's not true, though, Goomba. Diaz just had a save yesterday. So, I'm back out for the 9th. I had no problem at all. I think that if the Mets had gotten a lead in the top of the 10th, had it gone to extras, they probably would have pulled Mania and went to somebody else. It would have probably been Ryan Stanek or maybe Reed Garrett, although he pitched the 6th inning yesterday. So there were some options, but I have no problem with the Mets today. I gas up win this against LA shot in that. I know this heading into the All-Star at the very worst, half against dead at least. So apologies that the stream is being a little crazy, trying to fix it for that. I mean, it's still, I don't know what the deal is, guys. Sorry. Yeah, this is the bummer. Anyway, D-Rails, I'm just getting these chats and then I'll end up wrapping up. But my guy, what's up, D-Rails? Appreciate you tuning in, man. Yeah, Manai was on point. What a storm from him. Not upset that he, didn't make it through that inning. I don't think it was a choice to back out for that. I mean, Bear Fox pitched 2 innings yesterday. That 8-9 was home run ball. About points to good pitched it. No, right? I was standing at that point. I was watching for the concourse. And I was like, man, I should have bought tickets for the out. See if I could count on back 2000 what happened. Second, guys, let me just see if I can do something here. Okay, that's really nice. I don't know why I'm here, guys. I apologize. But wrap it up here. My camera is as crazy as it is right now. PB, P9 a month ago. Good cap again. Thank you, PB9. I appreciate it, man. Thank you. I knew you here before. You always bring the heat. Good comments to you. So thank you very much for subscribing and the channel. And thank you to all of you guys for being Adam Newbeck, Cade Anderson from LSU. All right, Holiday for Rockies. Draft as former team. Very good. Matt Holiday, son, Ethan Holiday, brother Jackson Holiday with those to Colorado. He will be home game. So very cool to see that, honestly. Here to the channel. Played this package. Yeah, Mark Vienna bottom self one way here with that. Matter at all. Really see that from the end. Again, I know the camera being so just terrible, but it's something at all. This is not normal. Every now and then, technology just doesn't want to cooperate. Very sorry about that, but Red Bear Fox, Goombom, and I threw 3 1/3 innings, threw 65 pitches, wasn't gassed at all. You're way off. Yeah, well, I didn't feel like he was gassed, but I also don't feel like it was the wrong choice to send him back out for the 9th. Again, if it went to extras and the Mets scored, I think they probably would have taken it out of this game. Whoever would have been, it would obviously not have been Edwin Diaz after a save yesterday, but I think they would have went to another reliever to try to close the game out had it gone to that point. But unfortunately not the case. The Mets do get walked off here in the final game of the first half against the Royals, but they take 2 out of 3. They are at the very worst going to be only a half game behind the Phillies in the National League East standings, or potentially a half game ahead of them, depending on their outcome against the Padres this afternoon. So let me go here. Joe says Daniel Murphy over Gelb's in the booth. Yeah, Daniel Murphy's okay. He's not a play-by-play guy, though. He's a color guy. He's an analyst. So I would prefer him, but I definitely don't think that he's going to be the future play-by-play guy when Gary Cohen does eventually decide to. But we shall see. Team is gone. Tone, yeah, guys, it's not cooperating today. I don't know why. I'm doing everything like I normally do, and for whatever reason, we just are having a rough time. So I think here's what we're going to do. We're going to wrap it up. Guys, thank you so much for being here. I apologize that it is such horrible quality today. I will have it fixed. We will continue our daily streams throughout the week, even though it's All-Star break. And we got some other content coming out with other Mets creators, such as Mets Weekly, who I used to be a member of. They are doing something tomorrow that I am planning to be a part of, so be sure to check them out, and I will continue to post here on my own channel as well. But leave this video a like. Be sure to subscribe if you're not already for daily Mets content, post-game recap after every single Mets game. We head into the All-Star break, a little bit of respite, not only for the players, but for us as fans. So I'm excited about it, if I'm being honest with you guys. But Thank you one and all for tuning in. Thank you to everyone that commented. Thank you to everyone that left a like. I really, really appreciate it. I am so sorry that the quality of this stream was as poor as it was, but hopefully it will be fixed by the next time we do another video, which will be tomorrow.